Morant with a running start. Elevates. Oh, it dunks. Oh, my goodness.
Tie game in overtime. Gasol will turn his heat. It's gone. Memphis on top. 7-10 remaining. Conley now with three. Count it. A 15-point lead for Memphis. And Blake Griffin gets into it on the floor with Randolph. Hard to tell if there are any punches being thrown under there, but Griffin took acceptance.
Adams going long. Morant. He hit it. John Morant. Insanity.
You gotta be kidding me.
Welcome to Grits and Grinds, a Memphis Grizzlies podcast. My name is Keith Parrish. The Grizzlies lost badly to the Denver Nuggets on Monday night, wrapping up their 4-game road trip. On this episode, I'm going to talk about the game. Before I do, just a reminder to all of you who live close to Nashville, Tennessee, that you should come out to Noble's Beer Hall tomorrow on Wednesday, March 27th for the Grizzlies-Lakers game. We will be having a Grizzlies watch party at Noble's. I will be giving away lots of Grizzlies prizes. There will be $1 off Wiseacre drafts. And of course, we're all hoping Brandon Clark will make his season debut. So come to Noble's Beer Hall on Wednesday, March 27th at 7 p.m. I will see you there. All right, this game against the Nuggets, I mistakenly thought before it started it might be competitive. Here was my reasoning. The Nuggets were without Jamal Murray and Aaron Gordon. They're not a deep team. They have the best player in the world in Jokic, and then a perfect starting lineup that complements him. And maybe the two most important pieces outside of Nikola Jokic are Aaron Gordon and Jamal Murray. Okay, so those guys were out. Meanwhile, the Grizzlies got some positive news on their injury report that Desmond Bane was available. So we had Desmond Bane and Jaren Jackson Jr., you know, an all-star and someone we consider to be a near all-star. And even like Lamar Stevens was back. Jake LaRavia was going to play. I didn't think we were going to win. I thought it would be competitive. It was not competitive. It was a wire-to-wire blowout. The Nuggets scored the first 6 points. They had the Grizzlies doubled up 22-11 early. They scored 39 points in the first quarter. Grizzlies trailed by 15 at that point, and eventually the lead got up to 31. Grizzlies never got within 15 over the final 36 minutes of the game. I mean, the Grizzlies put together a really nice offensive stretch in the third quarter. They had a 15-2 run, and that cut the lead to 15. And that was as close as it got. This was a horrific beatdown. Compliments to you if you watched the whole game. This one really frustrated me. I'm sitting there watching it being like, what are we doing? It was a really bad performance. And I know maybe their spirit's broken a little bit. Taylor Jenkins' post-game was like, he complimented the team's spirit. I don't know, guys. It kind of mailed that one in. In the first half, Jaren Jackson Jr., Desmond Bane, Gigi Jackson, and Santi Aldama, they combined to score 14 points. Whoops. The team made 4 out of 22 three-pointers in the first half. It was not fun to watch. Jaren, 3 points in the first half. I mean, nobody could do much of anything offensively. Like Scottie Pippen Jr. scored some points, but I mean, somebody's got to score. And so this goes down now as the Grizzlies' 16th loss of the season by 20 points or more. In Grizzlies franchise history, only the 95-96 expansion Vancouver Grizzlies had a season with more 20-point losses. They had 17. This year's Grizzlies have 16. The next worst or next closest team in the Memphis era was the 2007-2008 Grizzlies. They had 13 games where they lost by at least 20 points. Some of that, it's the increased scoring era. We see more and more blowouts. Also, some of it is the team is quite bad, having a really terrible season. This was the team's 16th game of the year where they shot under 40% as a team. That is the most such games for any team in the NBA. Portland is second. They have 14 games this year where they shot under 40%. Jaren struggled 4 out of 18 from the field. He had, again, 3 points at halftime. He was being aggressive. He was trying to take it at Jokic. Did not work out for him very well. He did post a unique stat line. He finished with 4 blocks and 2 steals and also got 5 assists. He has gotten better at passing. That is maybe one bright spot of this lost season. Jaren is now making, you could say they're simple reads. That's fine. He's making simple reads. He didn't used to do this very well. When the defense reacts to him, he's now throwing it to open shooters. He's doing it early where he doesn't wait an extra dribble and thus pick up an offensive foul. You see him more regularly find open shooters. That's a good thing. He's doing a good job. But he picks up 4 assists as part of this increased assist season for him. And the unique stat line, 4 blocks, 4 assists, and 2 steals. This was the first game of Jaren's career where he's hit all those marks in a game. He's just the 6th player in franchise history to hit all those arbitrary marks in a game. The only players to do it multiple times in franchise history, Mark and Pau Gasol. Jaren's now done it once. Rudy Gay, James Johnson, and Michael Dickerson each did it once. I am, frankly, surprised that Tony Allen never had a game with at least 4 blocks, 2 steals, and 4 assists. But the uniqueness and the trivial nature of that stat don't really mask the fact that Jaren was largely ineffective and kind of led the way for an overall pretty terrible team performance. Like Desmond Bane, I don't know if he was still struggling from his sore back, but he was invisible in the first half. You had Gigi Jackson, who scored just 2 points in the first half. Now, Gigi had a big third quarter, scored 13 of his 15 points in that third quarter. By the way, I don't know if you saw this. There was an article released yesterday. I thought it was fine. Pretty good article about, it was just wondering about whether or not Gigi Jackson's stats are empty calories. As in, is he just accomplishing these scoring feats like he had 6 straight games scoring 19 or more? Is he accomplishing these scoring stats in an empty calories manner, like in a meaningless way? I have no problem with that question. I think it's irresponsible, frankly, to not even think about it. We can all be excited about the tools he has, excited about how young and raw he is. I mean, I get most excited when Gigi makes non-scoring plays, when he makes passes, when he makes defensive plays, and then when he scores. My favorite plays are when he's doing finishes in traffic, when he is being big and strong and athletic and Euro-stepping through traffic and finishing. Like, those are tools we see. Those are real. Those will translate to when the games matter. Whether or not this volume-based scoring he's doing, whether or not that translates to next year when the games hopefully matter way more, I don't know. I think that's a fair question. I don't think it's a criticism of Gigi. I think that's the question you have to ask anytime your team is 20 or more games below 500 and you're giving guys lots of minutes. Like, I don't know how much of Gigi's performance is going to translate next year the same way I don't know how much of Jake LaRavia's or Scottie Pippen Jr.'s. Like, Scottie Pippen Jr. had 17 points. He keeps scoring pretty well. He made 3 out of 6 3-pointers. He had 4 assists. He also had 5 turnovers. I mean, the turnovers, clearly a problem. Had a bunch of turnovers at the end of the last game, the win over the Spurs. Turned it over a lot against the Nuggets. But, like, I think Scottie Pippen Jr.'s looked pretty good. Is that going to translate? I'm skeptical. I think a lot of people don't believe in Jake LaRavia because we had these preconceived notions, or we established this opinion that, like, hey, Jake LaRavia's unreliable and kind of bad. I mean, Jake LaRavia's played fine, or even pretty well over the past month. Is that going to translate to him being useful or on the team next year? I have no idea. I would probably guess no. By the way, Jake LaRavia did not play fine against the Nuggets. He missed all 7 of his 3-pointers. He was 1 for 9 from the field, had 3 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists. He was questionable with an illness coming into the game. Perhaps he still should have sat out. Now, Santi Aldama had his double-digit scoring streak snapped. He'd scored in a season-high 5 straight games in double figures. He only scored 5 points. He got 9 rebounds, though. He blocked a career-high 4 shots, got 3 assists, but Just up and down the roster, this was not a competitive game, and you felt, at least I felt, very disappointed. I don't know why. I know a lot of people are still cheering for the losses. That's cool. I'm fine with that. If that's the way you're going to absorb or digest the end of the season. This was technically an important loss for the Grizzlies if you're following the lottery standings. They stayed within one game. They have one more win than the Raptors. The Raptors lost to the Nets. That game actually kind of helped the Grizzlies both ways. The Nets had gotten within 2 games of the Grizzlies in the loss standings. Now the Nets are up to 27 wins. The Grizzlies only have 24 wins. So hopefully the Grizzlies won't fall any further down the reverse standings than they are right now, which is in the 7th spot. By the way, if you don't know, if you're unaware about the flattened lottery odds, I always think it's important to keep these in mind. If the Grizzlies don't catch the Raptors, and it looks unlikely, but it's certainly possible. I mean, the last 2 weeks of the season, the last 10 games of the season, basically anything can happen. So maybe the Raptors do pick up some wins. But right now, if the season ended with the Grizzlies having the 7th worst record, their most likely pick they would get statistically is the 8th pick. They'd have a 34% chance at the 8th pick, a 20% chance at the 7th pick, and then a 13% chance at the 9th pick. So 7th, 8th, and 9th are the most likely outcomes, with 8th being your most likely outcome by a lot. Then you have like a 9% chance at the 4th pick, roughly 8% chance at the top 3 picks. I mean, each of them. 8% chance at the 3rd pick, also the 2nd pick, also the 1st pick. And then there's a remote chance you drop all the way down to 10th, which is about a 1% chance. And then there's like a 1 in 1,000, less than 1 in 1,000 chance that you have the 11th pick. If you have the 11th pick, that means when they did the lottery drawings that 4 teams below you jumped up. So that's mathematically extremely remote. So whenever you're thinking about what the Grizzlies are going to end up with in the draft, when you're looking at your prospects, keep in mind, we're most likely going to pick 8th, maybe 7th, maybe 9th. And then if we get lucky, there's like a 32 or so % chance they jump up into the top 4. Of course, if they lose out and somehow get a worse record than the Raptors, those odds all bump up a little bit. Looking at the other guys who played in this game, Bane finished with 15 points. In my mind, it kind of belies how invisible he felt out there. Trey Jemison, this is a game that he got to play again. He played 22 minutes, had 8 points, got a block, got a steal, got a few rebounds. Lamar Stevens, he was questionable for this game. Lamar Stevens matched his season high with 19 points. He keeps making those mid-rangers. He also got to the foul line a lot. He was 7 for 7 from the foul line, 6 out of 9 on 2-pointers, missed his only 3-point attempt. Diki Giroux and Malginha Pereira, they both played again. They did not do a ton. It was essentially garbage time. This entire game was garbage time. Bless you if you actually watched it. And now a few more things, I guess, to fill out this episode. I'm proud of myself just for recording this episode. I considered not doing it, but if I stopped recording these episodes when I didn't feel like it, that's a slippery slope. So I'm going to press on, do this for you guys. But if you didn't see it, here's something we can talk about. On Draymond Green's podcast, he actually had some complimentary words to say about Santi Aldama. Of course, in the last Grizzlies-Warriors game, Santi got in the chest of Draymond Green. Draymond Green grabbed his jersey, and we as Grizzlies fans were kind of outraged that Draymond wasn't punished. You know, I've watched that clip more. I do see, it appears to me that maybe Santi does a slight little elbow bump, kind of hits Draymond with the elbow, but on Draymond's podcast, Draymond compliments Santi for the way he plays. He says some nice things. I'll play that clip for you now.
Santi Aldama always go at me, some type of way. By the way, those threes weren't on me, so don't try. I'm not talking about the points. He always talking some to me, and he got to put back, and he just walked straight to my chest. It's always something like that with Santi Aldama. Number one, I really like his game. I was watching him shoot during warm-ups, right before the warm-ups, and maybe a minute left in warm-ups, minute and a half. And I was standing there just looking the other side, and I saw him shooting, and he hit 7 in a row. And they were just so bounce, pure money. And I was like, wow, he's shooting the lights out the ball. And in hopes that that would translate to the game, and he started getting off. But Santi Aldama always go at me. From the very first time I seen him get in the game with the Memphis Grizzlies, he starts talking crazy to me. And so when he walked into my chest, like, that's already knowing, like, he'd go there every single time, which I respect. A young guy in this league who's trying to make his name for himself, to go at me every single time like that, I got nothing but love and respect for that. I'm not going to just let you walk through my chest, which is why I put my hand out to stop him. But I got nothing but love for that. And he competes like crazy. He play hard as hell every time. He impact the game in a positive way every time we play the Grizzlies, regardless of who is out there on the floor.
So that is an excerpt from Draymond Green's podcast saying he likes Santi. He thinks Santi always helps the Grizzlies in what he does. And he also likes the fact that Santi is very aggressive and kind of gets up in Draymond's face, even though he says, of course, he's going to push him back. And finally, here's the thing I'm not going to worry about, but I saw people on social media worried about it. On the Bill Simmons podcast, Bill Simmons and Ryan Russillo were picking the Western Conference teams they would like to be over the next 6 seasons. And not one time when they picked their top 6 teams in the West about which team they'd want to be going forward for the next 6 years, not once were the Grizzlies mentioned. And I mean, one, I think it's a borderline oversight by them, but also I think it's maybe healthy for us to consider the outsider's perspective on who the Grizzlies are. Of course, like a year ago or 2 years ago, we were basically the best young core in the NBA. And everyone's saying, if I could pick one team I could be going forward, I would pick the Grizzlies because of how young their stars are, because of all their draft picks and all their, setup. They're set up for long-term sustained success. Well, fast forward to now, we haven't won a playoff series in 2 years. Our star player has had some run-ins with the league, and he's been disciplined for off-the-court stuff. Also, he's hurt. And from our perspective as Grizzlies fans, of course, the positive picture for the Grizzlies going forward seems obvious. Ja Morant, Desmond Bane, and Jaren Jackson Jr. are all still 25 and younger. They're all under contract. Plus, you have 19-year-old Gigi Jackson. You're going to get a top 10 pick in this year's draft. I mean, Gigi, of course, if he was in this year's draft, would also be a top 10 pick. So you look at that, you look at Vince Williams Jr., you say, hey, Marcus Smart, Brandon Clark are still here. You think it looks very, very rosy for the future. The pushback, the outsider perspective, as if you've forgotten, there were always injury concerns about Ja Morant, and now he's kind of fulfilled those with missing this year. And then when you throw in the off-the-court stuff, there are very few fan bases who are like, sign me up for that. I would like to experience the Ja Morant experience. Outsiders don't feel that way, I think, typically. Also, I think there are fair concerns about the team's luxury tax situation and the ownership's willingness to pay it. Also, I think maybe there's a mild concern about Desmond Bane and Jaren Jackson Jr.'s ceilings. Like, this was an embarrassing loss. Not that Monday's game had anything to do with it. I mean, Bill Simmons did his podcast before that game, but like maybe the Grizzlies shouldn't be this bad this year if you still have Jaren Jackson Jr. and Desmond Bane for some games. That's not how I feel, but I think it's reasonable to understand that maybe other people feel that way. And that's why, of course, like, I think it's fair. Everyone objective would like say, I'd rather be the Thunder going forward or whoever else. Now, Bill Simmons and Ryan Russillo were picking all kinds of different teams where I was like, you take the Rockets over the Grizzlies or the Spurs? Like, Victor Wembanyama is the brand new shiny object, and maybe with podcasting and media, we get obsessed with that new thing, and you think about the ceiling, the what could be, but like, I'd rather have the Grizzlies set up with 3 known commodities as opposed to like the one, which is Victor Wembanyama, but that's maybe a personal preference. But anyways, I'm not going to get upset about the Grizzlies being ignored in a, like, which team would you rather be going forward, just because I understand the game is entertainment and content creation, and, maybe we got overlooked. I'm not going to lose sleep over it. Anyways, I think we can wrap up there. The Grizzlies had a horrible game. What am I supposed to say about it? Anyways, please come out to the Grizzlies watch party in Nashville on Wednesday night. Hopefully I'll see a bunch of you guys there. That's at Noble's Beer Hall Wednesday, March 27th. And again, fingers crossed. I mean, at this point, I feel like we're expecting it. At this point, if Brandon Clark doesn't play, And I don't know if I've just built that own expectation to myself. I mean, I heard him on the Bally's broadcast, like Rob Fisher and Pete Pranica, Brevin Knight, talking about hoping Brandon Clark is going to play Wednesday night home game against the Lakers. The Grizzlies go back out on the road after this one home game on Wednesday. If he's not going to play on Wednesday, why did you make him doubtful for the Monday game? Like, why do that to us? So I feel like Brandon Clark's going to play. So watch that game with friends. Do it at Noble's Beer Hall. Anyways, please subscribe to the Grits and Grinds YouTube channel. Subscribe to the Fast Break Breakfast YouTube channel. I'll have a new episode of that up on Wednesday. And if you want to support the show, do that at patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast. All right. Hope you guys have a great Tuesday. I'll talk to you soon. Go Grizz.